All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, here's something we haven't spoken about in quite a bit, something Star Wars related, because God knows I don't usually cover Star Wars stuff because for me, Star Wars has died a long time ago. But we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Leslye Headland declares that people opposed to wokeness are not Star Wars fans. Yes, apparently, ladies and gentlemen, the best course of marketing for the upcoming Acolyte show is to attack the fans of the original Star Wars, to basically say that, hey, if you don't enjoy all the feminist nonsense that's being injected into Star Wars lately, then you're not a real fan and we don't want you. Yes, because that clearly worked so many times before in recent history.
Yeah, I just try to treat everything as if we're on RuPaul's Drag Race. That's kind of like my... Just work the runway, work the runway.
Yes, yes.
You know, I'll never quite understand this whole attacking the fans thing. It's kind of a very weird marketing gimmick, and I think that it has long left the realm of prominence. I just really feel like it probably worked back in 2016, maybe all the way up to about 2018, 2019. Maybe you can even stretch it to 2020. But I think it's been long dead, and at this point, all it's doing is just hurting them continuously, and they refuse to acknowledge it. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says Star Wars The Acolyte showrunner and the former assistant to convicted felon Harvey Weinstein, Leslye Headland, has declared that people who oppose wokeness in Star Wars are not fans of the franchise. Yes, because you obviously someone who was invited into the fandom, who is now, after being invited into the fandom, is now trying to gatekeep the fandom from people who were originally here in the first place. Yeah, that's clearly a great idea to do for your upcoming TV show. And then you wonder why the viewership continues to dwindle time and time again. Even if you release all the episodes in the first day, it doesn't matter. The binge model does not matter. Your shows are coming and going with no prominence, no relevance, no talking about it aside from negativity. I barely see anybody talking about it positively. Even when I go to shill YouTube channels that literally shill for everything Disney, most of them won't even touch it. It's ridiculous, man. It's like the super fans of Rings of Power. They're like, yeah, my girl Galadriel, and then she never once made a video on Rings of Power. It is all fake. It is all meant to make this look grander than it actually is. It says Headland's comments came in an interview with the New York Times' Brooke Barnes, who maligns Star Wars fans as misogynist, shocker, for criticizing the woke DEI casting of the show. His example, a single YouTube comment that questions why are there so many women, girls, and minority characters increasingly dominating the ranks of Jedi. Ironically, George Lucas made similar comments when asked if he was going to bring more women into the future of Star Wars in an interview with Starlog in February of 1988. Lucas was asked, are you going to bring more women into the future for Star Wars films? He responded, well, what of Princess Leia? When you're making a war film, how are you going to put women in it? Think of the other war films. Think of The Longest Day. Those films, well, it's your galaxy. I have to go with the rest of the world and still make it believable. I'm not how many women will be in the rest of the films. That's the kind of thing that plots dictate. What would Star Wars have been like if Han Solo had been a woman? Again, even though that's a very old interview, it's still something that's still relevant to this day. The fact of the matter is, Star Wars is a heavily male-dominated space. It has been and always will be. And the fact that you're trying to pretend like it's not is ridiculous. The only time they ever want to acknowledge the fact that Star Wars is male-dominated is when they want to attack the males that dominate the space in the first place. They want to call them misogynist. They want to call them sexist. They want to call them everything under the sun, all because these girls want to play house. And then once they start being allowed to play house, all of a sudden they want to kick out the men that brought them into the house in the first place. It's ridiculous. But it says, nevertheless, Brooks uses a single question to declare that this is a version of the same misogyny and racism that greeted Rey, the female Jedi played by Daisy Ridley, who made her debut in The Force Awakens in 2015, and that drove Kelly Marie Tran off social media when she appeared in The Last Jedi in 2017. Kelly Marie Tran explained why she left social media in an op-ed for the New York Times. The op-ed makes absolutely no mention that her decision had anything to do with Star Wars fans. In fact, the only mention of Star Wars is at the end of the op-ed, where she declares, I am the first woman of color to have a leading role in the Star Wars movie. Again, if you are trying to hold on to that title as if it's something that is meant to be prominent, then I really can't understand why you are so shocked that people are annoyed by your existence. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just say that you are a leading woman in the Star Wars movie. You got to throw in the woman of color in there, because the more titles you throw in there, the more important you will make yourself seem to everybody else. It is so stupid. And Daisy Ridley, at the end of the day, was rejected because she was a Mary Sue. She was the definition, the prime example of a Mary Sue, a character who is above all, who did absolutely nothing in the entire story to earn whatever she was able to do. She just had it because she was a woman. And that is why people, even other women, are fed up with this nonsense. We can see right through it very easily, and we can catch a Mary Sue very easily. You guys are terrible at writing strong female characters. You're terrible at writing people of color characters. You really are, because for you, your first and only thought when making that character is the diversity that they bring to the screen. That is it. You don't do anything else other than think about how can we make this more diverse. And then once you have that diversity, everything else follows suit afterwards, and it's always second place in general. It's never the most important thing. The story of the character is never number one. It's always, hey, it's a female, it's a person of color, it's I don't know, handicapped. Like, just add in a whole bunch of diversity, and then once that's done, whatever time you have left to do a story, then you do it. And that's why you guys suck. In January of this year, during an appearance on the Today Show, Ridley was asked by one of the show's hosts, I just have to ask because there are some of the, I'd say, extreme Star Wars fans who have made this conversation on the internet about how they don't want a female director, which seems bizarre because episodes of The Mandalorian were directed by females. Kathleen Kennedy has been overseeing all of this. So what is your take? She responded, I think my take is things get blown out of proportion, and the interaction I've ever had with people have been nothing but wonderful and supportive. And honestly, the day we announced I was coming back at Celebration last year, you cannot imagine the joy and goodwill in that room. She added, so I've only ever been embraced, and I think we're going to make a great film, and people will love it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, don't really care. Let's talk about Barnes. Interestingly, Barnes makes still mention that Bob Iger was a male and also lampooned in the same episode alongside Kennedy, but it's totally misogyny. It has nothing to do with what Kennedy and Iger had done to Star Wars since they purchased it, which includes putting a chick in it and making it lame and gay. As for Headland, she informed Barnes, as a fan of myself, I know how frustrating some Star Wars storytelling in the past has been. I felt it myself. You know what I hate? I hate when these directors try to make themselves one with the fans, right? And they do it disingenuously. I can understand doing it from a genuine standpoint, but they always try to do the, well, I'm a fan too kind of storyline, right? They'll say, well, you know, I'm upset too over where Star Wars is at because I'm a fan. I promise. I've been a fan forever. Yeah, nobody's buying that bullshit. Everybody can clearly see through you, Leslye Headland, that you are not an actual super Star Wars fan in the slightest, whether past, present, or future. And honestly, you're just here because you are able to be here, right? Like, they gave you a job, they gave you the director role, and you are going to take that and run with it. And I don't blame you. Get your money while you can, while the DEI stuff is super important. It says in a follow-up text message, she then declared that Star Wars fans who oppose wokeness are not actually Star Wars fans. She said, I stand by my empathy for Star Wars fans, but I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan. Well, you know what? I think you should probably have a conversation with Ncuti Gatwa from Doctor Who. I think you guys would have a lot in common, and I think you would probably understand very quickly what's about to happen to your viewership for this show, The Acolyte, because if you continue to go down this route and start attacking your fans right before your show comes out, it almost never ends well. And look at Doctor Who, over 2 million viewers lost in a season. Absolutely insane. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.